Hey folks, David Stewart here. Today's topic is nootropics, or some people say nootropics. This is a word that I wasn't familiar with until a couple of years ago when subscribers were asking me about it. What's your favorite nootropics? What do you think about nootropics? And I had to go look it up and see what they meant. And turns out what they meant was drugs that are intended to be used in a cognitively enhancing capacity. And what that usually means is a stimulant to increase your focus, your energy, and therefore make your productivity more efficient. That's where I want to begin this discussion, but usually people are asking about this because they're trying to solve a particular problem, which is that they don't have enough time to work. And that, to me, is really the core problem, and that's something you should probably look at before you start trying to turn to drugs to make yourself smarter, because you don't really make yourself smarter with drugs. Rather, the drugs change how your mind is going to work, possibly in a positive sense, but possibly not in a positive sense. So I mentioned most of the things that end up being classified as nootropics are stimulants, and they're called nootropics because you intend to use them for some sort of cognitive enhancement. So stimulants, nicotine is one. Nicotine is supposed to be a potent nootropic. Caffeine is one. I drink caffeine. You may drink caffeine too. But the really powerful ones, the ones that are going to be really effective, are the ones that people are very kind of, I don't want to touch it. And that's going to be things like cocaine, methamphetamine, Adderall or Ritalin, really high potency stimulants. They're very, very, very effective if you're going to use them in more of a nootropic capacity, though. Stephen King wrote Cujo and couldn't even remember it because he was using so much cocaine at the time and was writing so quickly. This guy was writing like 8 books a year or something for a while, and was using cocaine to do it. I've known people who used cocaine to get through law school while they worked full time because they had to not be tired and they had to have a lot of focus to study. And so they used cocaine, and it's really, really strong. Methamphetamine is very strong. Lemmy from Motorhead used methamphetamine for years to read like a book a night. So these are really powerful drugs that have extreme cognitive enhancing abilities if you are trying to enhance certain things about your cognition. Most people don't want to touch them for obvious reasons. They have very big risks. They're street drugs. They have significant side effects and significant health risks as time goes on. So what I end up seeing from most people on the internet is they're looking for some sort of herbal supplement nootropic, something that is not regulated by the FDA, something that is not cocaine or methamphetamine. But the truth is you don't really know what you're going to be getting with an herbal supplement. They're not required to disclose the quantities of everything they put in there. They want to make their product the best. They might be inclined to throw in some extra stuff that they just maybe not tell you about. Because it's unregulated, there's also an element of you don't quite know what you're getting. So I knew people that used to use, for example, pre-workouts they would take a pre-workout and competitively play video games like StarCraft. Well, why did they do that? Like, aren't you supposed to take a pre-workout to get hyped up to exercise? Yeah, but it has the same effects. It increases your focus. It shuts off all the inputs except for the one you're trying to focus on. And that is going to make you better at something that requires extreme task focus, of course. And they liked No Explode, for instance, or Jack 3D, because it had beta-alanine in it, and that had this effect. It basically made them feel like they were coming down off of cocaine, which was a really high focus environment for them. Rather than having the initial extreme high of cocaine that comes with all the endorphins, it's the part where you're afterwards and you're really focused and able to be intense and things like that. That's why they like to take stuff like Jack 3D before gaming. So this stuff is in pre-workout. This stuff's in other supplements that are designed to have some sort of nootropic capacity. You can use them, and if they work, that's good for you. But there's going to be consequences for them, and because it's unregulated, you're looking at something that's going to have potentially unknown consequences. That being said, you can get a prescription for methamphetamine still. It's brand name Disoxin. It's prescribed for pretty strong cases of ADHD, and I don't want to get too deep into this. I think ADHD is not really a thing. It's mostly medicating children who don't have, they just are not behaving properly in the classroom. They aren't acting like girls for the most part, but I don't want to get too deep into that in this video. But you can get Disoxin, and the reason it's for extreme cases of ADHD, what ADD is supposed to do is you have an increased basically you have all your channels of your mind open. If you imagine you have a field, you have all these inputs, like 20 inputs happening. It's impossible to keep track of everything that's going on around you. And you stop and think, I'm like, there's an AC fan, there's a fan going, look at, there's a light here, light there, screen here, there's a drink, oh, there's a package of beef jerky I ate, there's a poker chip here, what's this, it's easy to get distracted, so your mind shuts off a bunch of channels so that you're only focusing on one thing at a time. But it usually keeps a couple open for good evolutionary reasons, which is, you don't want to be so intensely focused on making the basket you miss the tiger that's going to jump on you and eat you. So being distractible is an evolutionarily positive adaptation, and in most environments, you actually don't want to be completely so focused that you don't notice other things around you. You want to notice other things around you. The other thing, so anyway, that's for ADHD kids to make them really focus, and it's going to work. It's one of the chemical variants of methamphetamine, and one that tends to be on the milder side, so you can get that as a prescription. So if people are thinking, like, I can't just do a street drug meth, you could get a prescription drug meth. But are you willing to deal with the consequences of a really strong stimulant and what that's going to do to your health, your sleep, your well-being? It will make you focus more. Now, I mentioned having these channels off and on, and sometimes you want that channel open in case a tiger's going to eat you. But for creative purposes, you actually want a little bit of distractibility. This is why a lot of writers like to write in Starbucks. Starbucks is a terrible environment for focus. There's people coming in and out. It's noisy. There's machines going off. But it's the ability to disengage from the monitor that's in front of your face, the laptop, and look around, see a beautiful woman, and start thinking about something other than that, which helps get those creative juices flowing. It's inputs that get transformed through our intensely complex brain and soul that get turned into creative ideas. So having no distractions whatsoever may be good if you just need to do a task. And that's why they end up giving it to a lot of boys in schools. Like, we need you to do this school task and not talk to your friend and not look outside and not do these things that are normal for a boy of 8 to do. Now, we need you to focus on has extreme task focus. So if you have a task you just need to focus on, of course, the stimulant is going to enhance that significantly. But if you need to be creative, you actually need to have a lot of inputs open, because that's what's going to do all the synthesis in your mind. It's what's going to create that creativity. I've learned this over decades as a creative person. I've written books. At this point, I've written over a dozen books. A lot of this information I'm going to talk about, you can find in this book here, The Keys to Prolific Creativity, how to get a lot of work done and finish your projects and have a big back catalog. I'm also a musician. So if I'm writing music, and let's say I finish composing a phrase, do I want intense focus on the page in front of me? And now what I'll do is I'll take a break and I'll go get a drink, or I'll go walk around, pet the cat. And then my mind starts working on the next phrase, and I start getting ideas for the next little part of the music. Then I come back in with this fresh idea, and I'm able to do it. And it's actually more efficient than me just sitting in front of the computer waiting for music to happen. It doesn't quite work that way. Same thing with writers. Writers like to have a window by my door's closed now, or by my computer. Writers like to write in environments where there are distractions, but the right kind of distractions. That's why we like writing sheds. We look out the window and see the trees, and the trees look nice. We hear the rustle, or maybe a cat comes by. Those are positive distractions, rather than I'm in a classroom full of kids asking me questions, actively preventing me from doing the writing, right? So a lot of writers like to write in Starbucks, partly because it's away from home and it's away from the distractions of home. They're not going to turn on the TV. But also because it's an environment that provides lots of micro distractions that help the creative process and help you get through the writing process, help you think of the next thing that you need to do, help you be creative. So intense focus is not necessarily good for creativity. In fact, it can be very bad for creativity, depending on what environment you're setting yourself up in. So if you're going to use nootropics, you can use them. You can use whatever herbal ones you want. You can use whatever non-regulated FDA ones you want. They're going to have health consequences because they're a drug. Now, I'm using that in a broad sense. It has an active physiological effect on you rather than a vitamin. Vitamins have effects if they're absent. Drugs have effects if they're present. So you can use a drug to try to enhance your focus you're not really going to enhance your cognitive ability more. You're just going to make sure that you're only thinking of one thing at a time, which is going to make you feel more efficient. It's not going to make you smarter. It's going to make you more task focused for the most part. And that's if you're using stimulants. And like I said, almost everything that I talk about with nootropics, it's a stimulant, not an aesthetic drug like marijuana. Marijuana is the opposite of that. It gets you to turn all the channels on, and you're getting more inputs than you would normally have. Now, here's the last thing, is that, like I said, most people are trying to do more with less. They're trying to get their work done in a shorter amount of time. And they want a drug to do that, right? I have 3 hours to write this and I got to get it done. The core problem is probably that your life priorities are not aligned for productivity in what you care about. So I've met people, they want to have it all. They're like, I want to kick ass at my job. I want to make a ton of money, have a great career. So I'm busting my ass at my job for 10 hours. Then I hit the gym for 2 hours. Then I want to come home and I want to be a writer too. Something's got to give. You got to figure out where your priorities in your life actually are. So for me, my priorities are actually my family, and writing is like number 2 or 3. It's probably behind my health, actually. So, I write kind of in the margins, but I still set aside time to write. So I work every day for a certain amount of time, not a certain amount of time, but pretty much same relative time every night. I'm working, and that consistency of work does a couple of things. First of all, you'll have the time to do what you want, so you won't feel like you have to do more in less time. If you're looking for a magic pill to automatically make you smarter and make you better at writing or whatever else it's going to be, probably not going to happen. It's going to have those effects that I talked about. But if you set aside your time, you can develop your task focus through repeating your process over and over again. If you sit down to write every single day, do your best, your ability to focus on that task will increase. Your ability to do it with speed will increase over time the more you do it. You've got to get some practice in. If you're a brand new guitar student, don't expect to be able to practice for more than 15 minutes without getting frustrated or bored or distracted. That's okay. It takes time to build up to be able to practice for 1 to 2 hours at a time. Even when I was practicing like 5-6 hours a day, I did it spread out throughout the day. Did an hour in the morning, did an hour after I taught my first class, did an hour at lunch, did an hour in the afternoon, and did an hour at night, to work on different things throughout the day. Whenever I sat down to try to practice, I'm going to practice for 4 hours right now. Wasn't as productive as when I spread it out throughout the day. So figuring out how your work environment's actually going to work is going to make a whole hell of a lot of difference. But main thing is you need to arrange your life so that what you actually prioritize is having the effect that you want. If your main priority is your body, then taking a drug to try to supplement your creative output is probably not the best idea. You have to think, well, why do I feel like I have to do both? Do you have to do that extra hour of cardio or something, or can you write during that time and just eat less food or something? You have to figure out the solution that's going to work for your life to actually put your priorities in line. Because I notice a lot of times the people have dissonance because they don't have their priorities in the proper alignment for what they actually want to do with their time. So that's my main thing. You can get my book. It's $2.99. It's not. I'm holding up the wrong book. That's Crown of Sight. You can get this one for 99 cents. Here we go. Keys to Prolific Creativity. This is the book you should read. It's $2.99 on Amazon, or like $7.99 for the paperback. I go through all the kind of stuff for how to set aside your time, how to actually make your time productive, how to focus, how to build up your skills, how to do things that just keep it interesting over time. Work routines, all that kind of stuff is in here. Macro meta processes, it's all in this book. So you can grab that for $2.99. But leaving your thoughts down below. If there's some nootropic thing that you like to use, you can talk about it in the comments and see what's there. Like I said, the stuff that is guaranteed to work, most people aren't going to want to touch because they know that it's not very good for them. That's stuff like methamphetamine. And I don't recommend that you use that. Rather that, I recommend you arrange your life so that you don't feel like you don't have enough time to do what you actually want to do. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.